Welcome to The Author's Mind. We are going to have a great interview today with Liza Jacobs. She is a seasoned, spectacularly listenable audiobook narrator. I'm super excited because we have not really talked about audiobooks yet. It will move your career forward as an author. I am so excited to get to pull back the curtain on what actually takes place with an audiobook. How does it work? What production standards do you need to follow? So with 30 plus titles and 10 plus accents, Liza brings cozy mysteries, romance, and fantasy to life in a voice that listeners don't just hear. It's something that they feel. Liza, welcome to The Author's Mind today. Tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you do. How did you get into audiobooks?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Shiloh. I'm pumped to be here. I came to audiobooks a couple of years before the pandemic. Like everybody else, I was trapped at home around the pandemic, and so I got the opportunity to really grow my audiobook narrating education. I had gotten into it because I think, like many of us, I had burned out in my previous career. I was in children's book illustration, and I just felt like it was mostly working at selling the books than at getting to illustrate. And I had some design jobs, but now I had two little kids, and those design jobs were more demanding, and I needed a fresh start. And I loved audiobooks. Like, I had 2 Audible accounts to have enough credits for that month. Loved audiobooks. And my cheer coach from college posted on Facebook, and she was like, I narrated an audiobook. Do me a favor, listen to it and leave a review. And I was like, what? Like, people can just get into it. Like, it hadn't dawned on me somehow. I don't know.
Right.
So I fell down the rabbit hole. I took classes. I had a little bit of like a sort of high school, college theater background. I wasn't starting from absolutely nothing, but there was a lot of learning involved. And my very first book was I listen to it now and I'm like, oh, she's so green. But, it's just been so much fun. And learning the accents has been really, really fun. It's a combination of, I genuinely enjoy it. I think it's a really wild process. And I can't stand listening to an audiobook when you can tell that poor narrator got told at the last second that, like, the boyfriend is Irish, and you're like, oh, this is so hard to hear. Like, oh, but yeah. So,
Wow.
Sorry, that was a little roundabout, but
No, I love it, and I just love how we sometimes fall into the right thing in life, and suddenly
yes.
you discover, like, oh, this is actually what I love, and writing has been that for me. So, yeah, my son is 15, and he loves audiobooks. Like, literally, you can tell where he is because all you have to do is listen for the audiobook.
I love that.
It's tough for me because, like, I'll hear like 3 minutes of a story and then he walks away and I'm like, what is that?
Yes.
What? Come back. And then he comes back
on the cliff. Tell me what happens.
comes back 10 minutes later. I'm like, what? And anyway, I think audiobooks are a blessing in so many ways.
Yeah.
And they're a new form, relatively, for us to get to spend time with books. In our busy world, really, that's something that's so precious.
Yeah.
So for an author who does not have their books in audio form yet, what would be like the first step? Is there, in your mind, after doing this, is there like criteria that a book needs to turn into an audiobook? Is any fiction book good in audio? Well,
I think 99.999% of fiction is dead over home plate for audio. The only time I would think about if an audiobook is right for you, or if you just need to have a genuinely separate manuscript for audio, is if there's something that is just like very hard to, without any image, describe to your listener, your consumer. So like math tables, like really long visual description, or not visual description, but like long strings of numbers, things like that, where that's going to be, if you read it out loud to yourself, that section, and you're like, this isn't going to make sense. That needs a little a moment. But most fiction isn't that. Yeah, math textbooks would be tricky. Everything else, you're probably okay. I'm sure there are many authors who this is just their passion. They don't care if they sell a single book. If you are an author where this is a business and you are looking at it from an investment standpoint, I think there are two ways to look at audiobooks. One, you build your fan base, you build your group, you know your people, and you know roughly how your sales are going to look for any given book, and it gives you an idea of what that audiobook ratio will be. If you market the audiobook as well, don't just treat it like it's like a free bookmark with, a printed copy, then you will get that nice Venn diagram, you know what I mean, over time of your readers and your listeners, and in the middle there you've got your core people. And it's really lovely to see that happen, and many, many authors achieve that. It is totally achievable. Another way to go about it, if you have the funds and it fits your business model better, is to go ahead and say, we're going to have these in audio because I know I'm building my group, my people, and then down the road, when I have this big, really saturated group of listeners, of readers, I've got a nice backlog. That is expensive to do. And certainly if you sold 10 titles in the first 2 months of your last book, you are not going to make back the investment on an audiobook. The only thing I would, at this point in time, just with the way it is presently, please, please don't use AI. And I don't actually say that because it takes bread off my table. I say that as an audiobook fanatic, as a lover and listener of audiobooks. Oh, go ahead. You think you're going to do it. They're free to listen to an Audible, some of them.
Yes.
Listen, see if you can sit through 5 to 10 minutes of it, and really enjoy and retain the material. For me, man, it's not there yet. And that's okay, right? Like, hey, man, you put so much time and love and humanity into your book. It's hard to imagine that even if it can do different voices, even if it can, and they are getting to that place where like you can say, okay, everything attributed to this character may be in this voice or whatever. You can change it to a female voice. You can change accents. If and when we get to a place, AI, a computer, can fully emote a text, can really read it and understand the subtext and the emotion, we have bigger problems than if audiobook narrators get work. Like, that's like full on like, oh, wow, the AI is people. So I think that would be my first check-in point is I really cringe away from AI because I think you are putting a at-home spray paint job on a beautiful car you built from scratch. The price tag, therefore, is real. So I would either wait until you've built your fan base, which I think is the best way to not be disappointed, the best way to feel like, oh, this is, yes, look at this go. And you, of course, can go with the investment model where you just know, nope, this is my awesome backlog. People are going to find me, and then I will be bingeable. And like, that's pretty great too.
Thinking about what you've just said and going back to my son, he has a series that he absolutely loves, and it was narrated by Kirby Hayborn. He's a phenomenal narrator. And in the middle of the series, they switched it to an AI. There's like 12 books in the series. So at like book 6, it switches to an AI narrator. And he turned that book on and we were all like, oh. So like, he loves the series. Yeah. And he really enjoys the stories. So he actually listens to all of his audiobooks on like 2 times speed. I don't know how to say that. Like, it's
kids. Yeah. The younger folks, they love the 2 times.
2 times. So we have discovered, and I think that's really when he started doing that, was with the AI, because it was so bad that he was like, oh, I can't listen to this. So he sped it up. So much is changing with AI, with audiobooks, but the human connection, everything with AI only makes real human writing and a real human voice reading that writing so much more valuable. Like,
truth.
It really is. It's pumping our personal value higher. So go for it.
Yes. No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And is there a place for AI? Sure. But it's never going to be a human-to-human interaction where there is an exchange of knowledge and life experience and emotion in a meaningful way. Let AI pick plastic out of the ocean. Do it, babe. Get in there. But I have yet to listen to an AI audiobook and be like, man, this is really doing justice to this author's hard work. Like,
I could not agree more.
But
now, you were talking a little bit about budget.
yes.
Could you give us a roundabout, like in your mind, what do you think it will cost an author to produce a normal, let's say a 70,000 word novel?
You just gave me a math problem. 70,000 words.
It doesn't have to be exact.
No, it's fine. I'm like, wait, I know my reading pace and I know the average reading pace. So I think a lot of audiobooks that are novels that are sort of like, if you were like, if this is a movie, it's that classic 90-minute movie, right? You might end up at like 8.5 hours. SAG-AFTRA, which if you're an audiobook narrator who belongs to the union, is your union, they have the lowest rate at $250 per finished hour. So $250 per finished hour.
Oh, but
so
there's
if it's
so much
editing
editing to get to a finished hour.
Correct. So it's not $250 per hour worked. It's $250 per finished product hour, if that makes sense. Given what goes into it, makes way more sense.
Yes.
I always like, it makes me roll my eyes when you see the like YouTube and TikTok things that are like, would you like to make $400 an hour in a new business? And you're like, those. That would be fun, but that is the opposite of where we are.
Yes.
So that gives you a picture of where you stand, depending on how long your book is. North of 1,000, less than 3K, 2K. It depends. You just got to do the math on how many finished hours is this book going to be. Typically, you will read like 9,000 to like 9,300 words per hour, not per minute. And so let's say you have an 80,000 word book. It'll take over 8.5 hours to narrate. And of course, that always moves around. Like, do you have a huge amount of dialogue? Do you have a huge amount of heavy exposition? Like, what are we working with? What are we really looking at? But that gives you a rough idea of what the investment will be. Yeah, I wish it was a gentler pill to swallow. But it's why I think it's worth knowing in advance that if you are still building your tribe, building your people, building your fan base, and you need to be seeing back a real amount of your audiobook, you might not be there yet.
That is really wonderful advice to hear, because everybody's just pushing. Go as hard as you can. Do it all. And sometimes we do need a voice of reason to say, look at it logically and then make a decision. So thank you so much for that. Now, my mind is still blown. You said there's an audiobook union?
Yeah. So SAG-AFTRA is Screen Actors Guild. It also carries like film and television and radio and voiceover and all kinds of other performance. There are a couple organizations, SAG-AFTRA clearly being the really big guy. But not everybody is SAG, and it'll usually say on a narrator's website, if you're curious, and no one's offended if you ask questions. You might be surprised. There's an amateur level and a professional level. If you hire an amateur, you get amateur rates and amateur results. That's up to you. That's your journey.
Yep.
And if you hire a professional, the same applies. But with that said, if you're ready for a narrator, you're like, yes, Liza, I am absolutely positive. I have enough of a fan base. I'm ready. I understand my marketing strategy. I understand where my people are and what they want to see. And then you're looking at narrators. this is not at all like some big Hollywood actor. I can't approach them. You would be floored at how many times people, I'm like, oh, they're so fancy. But they do have a lot of independent author credits to their name. And they're really kind people and very accessible. And the more you go in with a specific question, the more likely you are to get a really generous response if you have a question.
That is so good, just to have that confidence to go in and say, these are real people.
Yes.
They are.
Yes. 100%.
Eating, drinking, living people just like me.
We drink our iced coffee one sip at a time.
Yes. And you're working at a creative skill just the way an author is. And it's very much, I'm sure, an energy draw to put your heart and soul into a book and really try to wrap your head around what the author is putting out. With that said, do you pick and choose which manuscripts you're willing to work with? Do you ask for a sample? Like, how does that work?
Yes. There's some stuff that's like an obvious no, because I'm simply not a good fit, right? And I'm a lady who's, I'm going to say, gently middle-aged. And I live in New Jersey, and, you know, like, my life experience informs a huge amount of my acting ability. So I'm not a perfect fit for a book about a South American footballer, right?
Yes.
As the main character. A general rule of thumb is, obviously, they don't have to be the exact same person. They never will be. But look at your primary protagonist and choose a narrator who could play them in the movie. And that doesn't mean looks. That doesn't mean they have to look the same. It's to say that if you choose someone wildly off base, it's going to be hard to get their voice to a really authentic place in comparison to if you choose someone who is from South Africa and who has ever touched a soccer ball or a football. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. And that match counts, doesn't it? Like when you're reading something that flows almost like you're a part of it.
Yes.
That shows up.
Yes. And I think the other thing is, for an author, if a narrator says no, there's two reasons. Either it didn't fit into schedule, which does happen, because like many creative things, it comes in bursts. I'm like, I have nothing on my desk. Who can I work with? And then it's like, I'm booked for 10 months. And the other one is, we're people too, and there's stuff where I know different narrators who have stuff where they're like, I don't read it, right? Because we dive into these books, we live in these books.
Mm-hmm.
It's our job to feel them. And if you've lived through a certain tragedy or event, people aren't willing to read it out on page. And hey, man, I get that. I narrated a book for Learning Ally, and I have not lived through a natural disaster, but after it, I cried so hard recording this book. I was like, I can't imagine if someone had left. Like, it was gutting. And I now know that, like, for me, I've been very blessed. My 2 kids are hale and hearty. But I cried so hard reading this book about tragedy that affects children. I was like, that's on my no list. If there's on-page harm to kids. And it's not to say that those aren't wonderful, meaningful books. And there are loads of narrators who will take them. But everybody's got their rubber band sting. They're like,
yes. And it makes me think of one of my other pen names, Elysian Hunt. I have, what is it? I think it's book 4 in that series. I wrote her as an experiment to see if I could write an unlikable character who readers would fall in love with. So she starts out, she's very rich and snobby, and that's her world. And she's getting on a cruise ship on which, you know, she says in the beginning, I'm going to spend the 2 most miserable weeks of my life on this ship. Which is an immediate question, right? You're like, whoa, wait, that doesn't sound quite right. And the narrator for that book came back to me afterwards. She's like, I cried so hard. It was so difficult for me to get through that scene where she reveals the reason that that's going to be her worst 2 weeks. And she said, but it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was there 100%. But so I hear you, and I understand that you connect with it. And
yes,
that cascade of emotions is in your body even, it's affecting your physiological like being. So
100% yes.
yeah, it's a big deal. So finding the right match is really important. I can't even imagine from your end how important that is.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's true. It makes a big difference. And it's why when you seek out a narrator, unless you're like, I have my heart set on this person, it's this person or nothing, then I would approach 2 to 4, 2 to 5 narrators, because you're going to hear crickets from one person because it's an old email account, right? It's like, just like whatever. And you're going to get, oh no, I'm too busy from one. And then you'll get 2 auditions, right? And so don't email 15 people, but definitely reach out to more than one person unless you've got a real reason not to.
Excellent advice. As a writer, one of my first checks as you get the book done and then you start to go through your 9,000 rounds of editing. One of those rounds of editing is almost always out loud, because that is where I catch like the doubled words that all my computer programs should have caught. Like that's your strength and you didn't catch it. How not? So that's when I hear those things, is if I'm reading it out loud. So as a narrator, do you ever find it difficult? Like, oh, I have trouble reading it this way. I wish the sentence was structured differently. Do you ever come up against something like that?
So the short answer is yes, absolutely. Every author has a different cadence to their sentence structure and to their story. And oftentimes it's not that I wish it were different. It's just a matter of that first 3 paragraphs. I know I'm going to read it 5 times, right? And then you get in the rhythm of their voice, and then it's smooth sailing. And then, of course, every once in a while, I almost never at this point receive an unedited manuscript. Oh boy, those go back real fast. And you're like, hello, I very much look forward to working with you once you have edited. And then there's every single book. Do not feel bad. Do not be shy or embarrassed. Everybody has 1 or 2 of those, like, I even read it out loud. My favorite was, it was a cozy murder mystery. And this woman's like creeping up around the corner and she's about to figure stuff out. And it's like, the tension is here. And it goes, and the smell grew louder. And I was like, I love it. And I wrote her and I was like, I don't know if this was absolute brilliance or a typo. What would you like? And she was like, that was definitely a typo, but it is kind of amazing. I was like, I know, man. Like, I will keep it. And I think the only thing I would caution against, if you're a beginning writer and you're finding your voice, if you're writing something like high fantasy, do not feel like you have to write in some sort of forced syncopation or some sort of like, and thou hast found the bread on the table. It'll come out. Like, if you see it in here, they'll see it.
Yes. Yeah. So good. Man, I feel like we've covered a lot of things that probably don't get covered about audiobooks, which is cool.
I'm so glad. This is my goal. This is my goal because I adore independent authors and reading, and I'm a fantasy freak. I love fantasy.
Okay.
And I adore audiobooks, so it's lovely to like have the two be honest with each other.
Yeah, it's so important. We need these conversations. So what's like the number one casting mistake, since you also love listening to audiobooks? Can you feel as a listener to an audiobook, like if the casting is wrong?
Sure.
Yeah.
As an unpopular opinion, don't tell anyone I said that. I think when you get to a certain level of professionalism, like this is what this person does for a living, the only times where I listen and I'm like, oh man, that stinks, that was tough, is if you can tell something got dropped on their desk and it was like, and we need it in a day and a half. And you're like, oh man, like it's no one's fault, but like, woof. And then the other one is you can tell someone who is really finding their place hasn't done the training. The performance is not there. And it really is an acting job. And it's a very specific type of acting, the same way that Voicing cartoon characters is a very specific kind of voice acting, or general voiceover is, for like a commercial spot is a very specific kind of thing. It feels like you should be able to just sit down and just do it until you try.
Yeah.
It's like cooking something very complicated and you're like, wow, I am not a chef. Or you get out on the football pitch and you're like, oh, wow, this is hard. It feels like it should be easy. I understand that inclination, but I think there are times where really well-intentioned authors will read their own. And this is maybe counterintuitively true for both nonfiction and fiction, because fiction requires a real amount of like, can you do believable characters that are not over the top and that don't just lean on an accent or a pitch, right?
I have a ton of books and audiobooks, but I have two that I would really like to redo. They're out there. They're okay. I don't feel like the narration was 100% the best. And I would really love, because they're Christian sci-fi, fast paced, there's stuff going on. I would really personally love to do a light, I don't even know what you call it, like where you add in some sounds and some ambient, like what is that called? Do you know? Enhanced?
This is actually something that has changed wildly in the last 10 years. So like adding music and sound effects was, as the kids say, cringe.
Yes.
In the professional industry for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And in the last 5 years, multicast, duet, and dual narratorship, which I'm happy to go over, those have, multicast in particular, really brought in music and sound effects. And if you look at what the big guys in the industry are investing in, I don't know if you saw the new Harry Potter audiobooks that came out.
No.
Talk about an investment, and man, are they good.
Are they?
They're like, my daughters and I were listening to them. I was like, and like, there's, full on in the moment sound effects. They're all the way from like, you hear the steam engine to they're creating a sense of environment. Yeah. And now all our booths are very, these walls are padded. These walls are double thick and they're squashy to the touch because they want that deadened sound. But then they're adding back in echo and you're like, well, that's a little counterintuitive, friends.
I worked really hard on getting rid of that.
Exactly. Yeah. But the truth is, it is the Wild West. It is a very exciting moment in audiobooks where it's growing like crazy. It's changing as fast as it's growing. And anyone who tells you there are rules is telling you what they understood the rules to be last month. And you can take that as gospel. That's okay. Or you can be like, cool, I'm glad you like that, and do what you want.
So true. Opinions are like butts. Everyone has one, and most of them stink. That's as an author, I have to keep going back to that because I do value opinions to some degree, but I also have to realize that everybody has their own way of looking at things. So going back to my son, yet again, he really started out on radio adventures, thinking specifically Jonathan Park his father is a paleontologist, and so they're always in these archaeological sites, but the sounds are there. It is like immersive radio experience where everything is happening. You hear everything. So coming from that, and then he moved into the audiobooks, and it felt so flat. It'll be interesting to see where we end up as a society. Like, what is the bulk of us like to listen to?
My prediction would be that it is genre specific, narration style specific, and age specific. Genre specific meaning if you are reading historical fiction and it's heavy and serious and based on real people and events, you're going to see less of this.
Yes.
If it's like the novel you were describing and you're like, things are going on and it's crazy and it's like sci-fi and it's a little YA and it's this, you're going to see more. Certainly, I think we've already seen if it is multicast, meaning you either have a narrator for all primary parts, that are different narrators for all primary parts, and then everybody is a cast ensemble. You're also, ticket taker number 2. You are also the waitress, right? And then you have one primary anchor narrator who is the narration. Those already we have seen. Lots of sound effects, immersive sound, meaning like I'm in the tunnel so it echoes, intro, outro music, all kinds of stuff like that. And it's just a spectrum, and it's going to keep changing. And so I think there's nothing wrong with experimenting. Another thing to note is if you're working with a narrator as an independent author, there is absolutely nothing wrong with saying, hey, what would your rate be for sound effects, narration, like just straight read it like it's 1995.
Yep.
Then also, and keep that. And then also give me a version with the sound effects and the music. I'm sure they'll give you a rate. Or they might say like, oh, I don't do that, but here's an audio engineer I'd like to work with who would happily do that. You can also, after the fact, just layer some on top and see what it sounds like. Like, it's a little bit like painting on your sneakers. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, but I have these lovely sneakers and I don't want to mess them up. Yeah, I hear you, 100%. But like, they're also your sneakers. You bought them. They were made for you. Like, get in there.
I agree. I am all about trying new stuff out. Let's say that there's an author who has a book series.
Mm-hmm.
Do they always start on book 1 with the audiobook? Like, let's say that their books are kind of standalones and maybe book 5 really sells the best. Like, what's the best choice for the first book that they're going to turn into audio?
I know, of course, it's so tempting to be like, no, book 5 clearly is our girl. Like, let's get her in there. But I think you gotta see it. That's when you put your business hat on. Your artist hat is like, no, but she sings and she's book 5. But your business hat says, if I am a total stranger to you and I'm scrolling through my Audible app and I am looking for something to have for my road trip, I don't want to start on book 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, oh man, I missed their meet cute, or like, oh man, I missed all the exposition where I got to see the castle. Like, come on. Like,
yes.
And that's sort of the broccoli with the meal of this. Sorry.
Let's swallow it. No, it's really good. Really good way of thinking of things. And I think too many authors really come into publishing with a school mentality. Like, I'm handing in my paper. Here it is. Grade it,
Yeah.
And no, you're not in that world anymore. You're now in the place where you have to wear all the hats. You have to be the marketer. You have to be the publicist. You have to be all of these things in order to really be seen in today's world. So I love the mindset that you have to make that a business decision. Absolutely.
I get it though.
It's hard. Decisions like that are really hard. So Plunge, the book that I keep talking about, that I write in first person, and it's present tense. So like I don't really like first person that's like somebody's telling you I did that and then I did that and then I went over there and I did that. So like it's really that like immediate, everything is happening now. And I also write in like double first person. So it's I usually have 2 main characters and every chapter alternates, you're in one person's point of view or another. And in this book, it happens to be a male and a female. So for audiobooks, it's obvious that you have to have a male read the male and a female read them because it's first person.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody doesn't write for first person. It's just kind of omniscient narrator. Do you think that male or female, I mean, obviously if it's a cozy mystery, it's probably of mostly female readership, you would assume a female reader would be best. Do you agree with that?
Yes, wholeheartedly. I know there are a lot of particularly romance that are dual POV, chapter to chapter. And unsurprisingly, a huge amount of them, when a publisher casts them, they're cast as dual or duet. Dual is I read a chapter, he reads a chapter. Duet is he pops in on my chapter to read all of the male lines.
Oh, that would be so cool. So much editing. I cannot imagine the amount of editing.
1,000% yes. And as you imagine, the dollar signs between one solo narrator is your base sort of model. When you say dual, you're adding. Ooh, boy, I talk for a living. And then duet, that much more expensive. Multicast, that much more expensive.
Oh, so wait, what would be the difference between duet and multicast? Like
More narrators.
more. Okay, so like every single character has
Usually,
their own voice.
not every single character, but like you'll have between 5 to 10, maybe 15. Certainly for like the Harry Potter books I referenced, their budget is behemoth. So like, yeah, at every single porter is their own, narrator. But it's not uncommon for if you have a cast of like 7 narrators, those are your 7 main characters, the 2 main love interests, the best friends, the grandma, right? And then they sort of hand out all the others, like you're, pacing out cards for a card game, right? And you're also the, grandpa, and you're also the waitress, and you're also the whatever.
Okay.
But the amount of individual, like humans involved, narrators, and editing and editors, you're adding and adding and adding. Are they wonderful productions? 1,000% yes. But that is a thing to keep in mind when you're like, oh, my book is dual POV. And you're like, I love that for you. But unless you're comfortable with a female narrator coming in and narrating the male chapters that aren't necessarily in first person, you know what I mean? Like, there's a balance to be struck.
There is. Everywhere. There's a ditch on the side of the road on each side, and you need to stay in the center lane.
I've never heard that there's a ditch on each side of the road.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that on my kids today.
It applies to everything in life. It's amazing. So let's say that an author is looking at diving in. They're going to put this huge investment in, and they're going to stretch themselves to do it. Let's look at this from like 2 points of view, right? Because I love how you also love to listen to audiobooks. You as a consumer, like how do you choose an audiobook? Do you listen to the sample always?
Every time.
Okay.
Every time. There are, the same way I have authors I follow, I've got narrators I follow. I know that I'm going to love Amanda Ronconi no matter what. Like, she's just fabulous. She's like funny and zippy, done, right? Aside from that, more or less exception, I always listen to the sample, and I'm more forgiving of production quality than I am of performance, and I think that's true for a lot of folks. Genuinely bad production quality mostly will not pass Audible's quality control. So you mostly, and you have to say mostly, don't see it. Like if you can tell someone's just reading off the page, oh boy, no thank you. Or if someone's really just like, you're like, oh man,
Over the top.
thank you. A lot of readers have genres I'm excited about, have different things I'm having a good time exploring. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can go into it, but that little sample makes a huge difference.
And that's really a sobering thought as an author.
Sorry.
No, I love it. It's so important, right?
Yeah, it is. It's why whenever I give a retail sample, unless I've worked with this person 15 times and I'm like, I know what she wants, I would gently caution against, without forethought, only choosing the first 3 minutes of the first chapter. Only because a lot of times, once I've invested and I'm like, I'm going to be listening to this book for 8 hours, or I'm going to be reading this book for 3 days, or however long, I'm willing to have the pace be a certain thing, right? Like, I know what's coming. We're good. Keep telling me about the ballroom. I'm here. And that may or may not be the tone of the rest of the book. If she is jogging and shooting aliens for the entire rest of the book, maybe your sample isn't her like combing her hair.
Okay, I've never thought of that before. Having the sample be not the opening of the book. Like that never even entered my head before.
Promise of the premise, right? Isn't that a rating thing?
Yeah. Let's say that you're scrolling through Audible and you click a sample yeah, you just automatically assume, like, if it sounds like it's starting in the middle of action, you're like, oh, well, this is just a sample. And you as a consumer know that, and you're cool with that.
So this is actually an interesting thing. And one of the things you can do as an author for free to get a sense of this is, as narrators, when we list samples on our website, whether you're looking at independent authors or publishers, which most forward-facing stuff narrators have on websites is intended for publishers. There's sort of a set standard of like what you choose and why, right? And you want to choose a sample that represents the genre. If I say this is sci-fi, I don't want to hear about her cooking. And you want to do something that clearly showcases something on purpose, right? Like, this is me doing male and female voices. This is me doing straight narration with like building tension or exposition or whatever.
Right.
And finding something that does that, that really represents what it is and makes sense in the minute and 30 seconds you get in a sample, it's a task. It is. It really is a task.
It is.
But it is doable. And you, again, this is when I would take off the artist hat, take off your, this is my sweet, precious baby, and I'm protective of her hat.
Yeah.
And put on your business hat and say, I'm a 40-year-old woman in New Jersey looking for something for a long car ride. It needs to make sense.
Mm-hmm. It's a red flag.
I'm not saying it's a deal breaker. I'm saying it's not a great business choice for the author.
I've been asked multiple times for, well, let's have a quote from the book. Huh. And as an author, you're like, what? That's impossible. And so
make your book a smell. You're like, what?
Exactly. Yeah, that would probably be easier. And I have this rom-com series, and in book 1, the main character she's reached her end. She's like a control freak, and she has reached the end of her ability to deal with her life. She's terrified for her life, and she has a dog, but it's a golden doodle, so it's no help. And so she takes this bag of potato chips and crunches them up and dumps them in front of her door. Well, in front of like the outside of her door, so that if somebody comes up to her door, they have to crunch through the potato chips to get there. And she hears this happen, and it's a policeman coming to check on her. But like, she has this outrageous response, which is really kind of outside of her character, but it's her real heart comes out in that moment. Like, she's like, yeah, sure, I'm fine. I have like potato chips outside of my door. That's always the quote that I choose, because I think it's like that in media res. It's like in the center of her disaster. And but it's always so hard to know, like, is that the best choice or not? It's just really those tough decisions we have to make as an author. So now I'm going to go back to the retail sample on all my books and listen to them and try to make better decisions. Thank you.
Anytime. It's not easy. It's hard. It's hard. And keep in mind, there's a lot of good choices. Like, there's a lot of right answers. This is not like a Where is Waldo? There is only one correct one. You spend 10 hours, right? Like, really, if it feels right and it looks right, it's probably fine.
Yes, that's so true. But we're all striving for excellence. And I think that's something that I really feel, just your vibe is so much excellence. I can tell the instant that you talk about audiobooks that you want it to be 1,000 times better than anybody thought it could be. And I appreciate that about you so much. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Tell our listeners a little bit how they can connect with you, where they can find you, and if they have questions about audiobooks, what do they do with those questions?
Sure. My website is Liza Jacob, LizaJacob.com. And on there, if you're curious about how to do the thing we were just talking about with the retail samples, I've got a bunch there that hopefully do justice to what I was saying. Sci-fi sounds like sci-fi. There's an independent author tab. In that, there's a whole lot of information, if you just want to take a peek on the website, about the process, about casting, recording, about editing, about distribution. And there's PDF download in there that every time I'm like, oh, I wish I could tell this to an author. Or I write an email to an author and I'm like, hey, I don't know if you knew, but maybe this. All those things are in there. And, it's not written in stone. It's not an absolute, but it is all the stuff I've learned over the last few years, just put as a little gift from me to you to try to help in, having the best audiobook experience you can.
That is an incredible resource.
Sure.
Go get it. Go to her website. I'm going to post the link in the description below. Go there, download the PDF and read it. Absorb it. When someone who is a professional in their industry offers you value, go get it. It has been an awesome conversation today. I really appreciate your look into the inner workings of audiobooks. Thank you, Liza, so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute blast. I loved it.
It was fun. And thank you for listening today to The Author's Mind. I'm Shiloh Creed. We will catch you next time.